Hey everybody, this is Don again. It is time for episode 60 of Practical Reality. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's actually beautiful outside. I didn't expect it to be. It was supposed to rain today, but it never actually did. So cool. It's been actually getting nicer and nicer all day long. But I didn't have time to print the script out before I did this because I just finished writing it a little while ago. And when I made episode 59 last week out in the sun, it became very difficult to read my computer screen, and I had to do it like 4 times to get it right. So I decided to make episode 60 inside today. I'm very excited to be filming episode 60 of Practical Reality, and the content of this video will sort of explain why. Another point I want to make about this video before we get started is that this is another example of a video which started out as nothing more than a framework of an idea. It happened after I watched a video, which I will include a description for in the description of this video. As I began writing this video, I got into sort of a creative flow, and it just evolved. And I believe that this is one of my best videos ever because of that process that happened. Finally, I want to make mention that I used AI for the first time in my life in the preparation of this video. It didn't help me write any of the script, but it did help me answer the questions that I wanted to ask to put this video together. So I guess I'm proud of myself for doing that. So I feel like that was a big step forward for me. So anyway, let's get into the video. The title of this video is Let's Talk About the Highest Form of Intelligence. And what is defined as the highest form of intelligence? It's called meta-thinking, which simply means thinking about your thoughts. Now, having been a recruiter for nearly 12 years, I have reviewed many thousands of resumes, mostly from people applying for professional positions. Acquired professional skills are often key to determining whether a candidate is qualified or not for a particular position. And when a candidate realizes that they don't possess a skill that's required for the job, their most usual response is to say that they're a quick learner. And you can't blame them for saying that. I'd probably say the same thing. I believe I'm a quick learner too. But at the same time, I've had conversations with people in other situations when I'm not working who make the statement that they've learned things the hard way. And I'm sure that we all know someone who has said that about themselves, if you haven't said it yourself. Okay? Now, that might be in their personal life as opposed to their professional life, but it still raises some very interesting questions. Now, the first question, of course, is what does learning things the hard way actually mean? Have you ever really thought about it? I'm sure if you asked 100 different people what learning things the hard way means, there could be 100 different answers, okay? So I went and asked Google, okay, what's the definition of learning things the hard way? And this is the answer Google gave. Gaining knowledge or understanding through painful experiences, mistakes, or difficult consequences, rather than through instruction or observation. And I shortened that to 3 words. Learning from tragedy, which I have personal experience with. So the second question then that came to my mind is, why are we like that? Why do we insist on learning things the hard way? Now, I think the main reason is that many people make decisions without enough forethought, impulsively. I came up with 3 reasons that I think would include a lot of people for that impulsivity. First, it's because they think they know enough already and they don't need to learn anything else. Or, second, they are so egotistical that they think they can do anything. Or 3, they're under such stress that they can't think straight. And their actions have unintended consequences that require emotional or physical cleanup that can last for years. Something else I've learned from personal experience. Then I asked what I consider to be the most important question. Can a person who's a fast learner at work be someone who learns things the hard way in their personal life? This is the answer that Google gave. Yes, this is very common. A person can be a high performer at work while remaining a slow learner in their personal life. And the split happens because professional learning and personal growth use different parts of the brain and require different levels of vulnerability. That's the exact answer that Google gave me. I thought that was a very, very interesting answer. Then I asked, what causes the split between fast and slow learning? And it comes up with, it's systemic versus emotional intelligence. Work provides clear instructions, manuals, and metrics that you have to meet. You can master being a software engineer or any other process through sheer repetition. Personal growth requires introspection, meta thinking, which is much harder and doesn't have a user manual or an instruction booklet. And the definition of introspection, of course, as I just said, is meta thinking, but the actual definition is the conscious examination of one's own mental, emotional, and psychological processes to understand their thoughts, feelings, and motives. That is meta thinking. And when I asked Google the percentage of people who engage in meta thinking, it didn't actually have a clear answer. Here's what it said. While metacognition is a fundamental, mostly universal human capacity, which means that all people are capable of doing it, studies suggest that its active, regular application is far from universal. Another claim that it put forward is that there might be a 0.001% of the population that is actually capable of existing in a state of metacognition or metathinking at all times. In other words, to constantly be aware of their own thoughts, feelings, and motives. And I think that would be a nearly impossible standard to try and live up to. I think you'd have to be a monk to actually be able to live up to that kind of standard and be that aware of your own thoughts 24/7. That's very, very difficult. Then the next bullet point says active application. Some perspectives, which I guess means like scientific perspectives, suggest that the majority of people do not routinely engage in deep self-reflection or metacognition, and may even actively avoid it and choose to operate instead on autopilot, which is basically a synonym for saying that they live a completely unconscious life. So there it is in black and white. Even people who you know who might be very successful resist the urge to develop the skill that could be one of their greatest benefits. So the next logical question then became, what are the benefits of metathinking? And the list I found to be really surprising. I have no idea that there would be this many benefits. First of all, metacognition is a powerful accelerant for learning. It helps you identify gaps in your knowledge and choose the most effective strategies to close them. Second benefit, improved emotional regulation. By observing your emotional reactions as mental data, you can create space and observe those thoughts from another perspective that may help you better manage your emotions. Next benefit, better decision making and problem solving. Metathinking, people who employ metathinking plan their approach to a problem, monitor their progress in real time, and evaluate if an answer makes sense. This is a great way to discipline your impulsive nature. Put in a very simple way, this is telling you to think before you do things. Individuals who practice metacognition are more likely to have a growth mindset. Instead of feeling bad at a task, they ask, what part of this is difficult? And what strategy can I try to break it down into smaller pieces to make it more accomplishable, for lack of a better word? Enhance professional performance. In the workplace, metathinking helps you evaluate your own job performance, manage time more effectively by more accurately estimating the effort required for tasks, and adjust your communication style based on the person you are interacting with. So even if you feel you are a fast learner at work, you can still use metathinking to enhance certain skills that would never actually be listed as bullet points on your resume. And finally, what I consider to be the most important benefit of metathinking. It pulls you into the present moment. Now hang on with me here, this will take a couple of minutes to explain. According to the video I mentioned earlier, the universe is not moral, it's magnetic. The gentleman in the video addresses the question of why bad things happen to good people. And it really makes a lot of sense, unfortunately. He explains that a lot of bad people seem to get what they want because they have vision and clarity and confidence in their ability, and they project power. And people who consider it more important to be honest in their dealings with others often don't have that same ability to project power. So they struggle with self-doubt and a little bit of fear. They don't have the same sort of confidence and conviction as someone who is doing something for a very selfish reason. And the person who is unclear on their convictions sends a muddled message to the universe. And the universe responds in kind and gives you a messy sort of life. So the solution the gentleman recommends in the video is to bring yourself to the present moment and be thankful for everything that you have right now. The way to vibrate abundance into the universe is to be thankful for everything that you have every single moment of every day, which does sound like an impossible standard, but you can at least bring yourself into the present moment to do this several times a day, even if it's just for a few minutes. So I tried an exercise on my own while I was getting dinner ready last night. I stood in the kitchen and I began taking things out of containers and putting them in bowls and on plates, and I thought to myself about nothing else but exactly what I was doing right in that very moment. And I came to appreciate every single bit of food that I was preparing to eat. I stood in the kitchen looking at the soup that I had made myself and thinking about all of the ingredients that were in that bowl and how good they are for me. And I suddenly came to appreciate that soup so much more. I felt an immediate rise in my vibrational state of gratitude, which is exactly what happens when you enter the present moment. As far as I'm concerned, that little moment I had in the kitchen right there is proof enough for me that meta thinking is beneficial for me and probably will be beneficial for you too. Now, I've been engaging in meta thinking for quite a long time. It is an ongoing and never-ending process. If you read Eckhart Tolle or Dr. Joe Dispenza, you will find out that meta thinking is an essential element for anyone who is taking an introspective or spiritual journey. Now, as I said, I would never expect myself to be in that top 0.001 of people who are constantly monitoring their own thoughts. But I am aware enough to know that metacognition is necessary, and that is an ongoing process for anyone who wants to engage in a long-term cycle of personal growth. So guess what I'm saying is that there has to be a happy medium. It is unlikely, like I said before, that you would ever have the time to constantly monitor your thoughts or ever be self-aware enough to be able to do it. But it does show the importance of creating time to spend alone to examine your own thoughts, the benefits of which I have shown to be undeniable. Which brings me to conclude that I am so lucky to be doing this channel. By engaging with an audience, even if it's a small one, being honest about myself with listeners, and creating content for this channel, I am practicing meta thinking. And there is no question that it has helped me. I still learn some lessons the hard way, yes, but my meta thinking journey has allowed me to become less impulsive and create some space around my decisions in order to examine my motivations and deter my impulsivity. They say that with age comes wisdom. With age comes the responsibility to pass on your knowledge to others. That's what I try to do in every one of these videos. Meta thinking used to be sort of just a buzzword for me, to think about your own thoughts. I was engaging in the process without actually knowing the benefits it had for me. So there was no real goal or motivation to do it. Now that I know the benefits, it's clear that more effort is necessary in this area of my spiritual journey. And I hope you all have that exact same takeaway. And I thank you all for listening, and I hope everyone has a peaceful, prosperous, and wonderful day. Like, comment, and subscribe. Spread the news, please. That would make me so happy.